Welcome, everyone. Episode 8 of the Dolphins Make Me Cry podcast. And wow, if we can surmise everything going on right now in one word, disaster. And it's week 3. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know if I have the words. But then on the other hand, I do know where to start and I do have the words. So here's where we're going to start. Dolphins lose to the Bills again. 31-10, Thursday Night Football at home. We'll get to the ins and outs of the game. But obviously the story, Tua. Suffering his quote-unquote fourth concussion, probably his fifth, documented. In the latter parts of the third quarter, running to try and get a first down, not having a good game, had 3 interceptions. Dolphins are obviously getting killed. And he goes to make a play, runs directly into Damar Hamlin, of all people, one of the smallest guys in the league. And instead of sliding and playing it smart, Tua decides to go full bore, had the first down, and suffers a concussion, goes out of the game. And I'll start here. Obviously, it's just bad luck. And, you know, for him as a person, I think Tua is one of the men of men in this league. I think he's a good human being, a good man, well-spoken, good teammate, really trying to become that next level player. And I think he's a very good player. I'm happy to have Tua as my starting quarterback. Does he have his limitations? 100%. Is this a year where he was trying to get to that next level? Absolutely. Got paid, which is a whole nother avenue of this entire craziness of a story. And he's basically said he's going to come back. He was put on the IR, so he's going to be out at least 4 games, even with the bye week in there, and says he wants to play football. So the first thing from the luck perspective, I mean, the Dolphins, they're snake bit cursed, whatever the word you want to say, to have something like this happen where you lose your starting quarterback in week 2 in a game you're getting killed. And on top of it, it's not like this is like a knee injury or an ACL. This is another brain injury. And my first question becomes, when they signed the contract, and even before they signed the contract, after the last concussion, which was the end of 2022, and we'll never know this probably, what did the doctors say to Tua? What did the team doctors, the neurologists? Hey, this is what it's going to look like moving forward on number 4 or 5. And they then made a decision to pay him knowing what that was. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see how they play this out here. I think there's going to be many factors. What their record is in 4 games for, is he going to come back? If I'm a betting person, I'm going to say I think he will come back. You hope they're not 1-5. We'll get to that. That's another whole subject. But where do they also then go from here? Because then the next question is, okay, if you're coming back, what happens if we have concussion number 5? And then the other side of this coin is, it seemed he learned the lesson in his play style coming out of 2022 with the Christmas Day concussion where he was throwing picks all over the place. Apparently didn't know what was going on at the end of that game. And it just leaves your organization in this state of flux. And the big boys that make the big money, they got to make some big decisions here because they did a horrendous job. And I talked about it weeks ago when media members down here talked about it. They did a horrendous job, in my opinion, and actually having a correct insurance policy for a guy that had concussion history. Now, they got, lazy might be the wrong word, but did they get a little lazy knowing last year he played through and had no problems? Right, and he played smarter, didn't run. He did not put himself in harm's way. But now all of a sudden he's playing hero ball, and I get it. He's trying to get the team, coming back. Had a bad game. He's trying to make it happen. Wasn't a huge hit against a huge guy. But again, you got to be smart, bro. Avoid contact. And I get it. If he goes down and they don't get the first down and let's say they kick a field goal, or if they turn the ball over on downs there, everybody's going to kill them. Hey, you're not tough, you're not this, you're not that. But guess what? We're having a much better podcast today because what we're talking about is how they lost to the Bills and how they're just not good enough, but we live to fight another day in Seattle with your starting quarterback, who really is the straw that stirs the drink on offense. So it's an unmitigated disaster. Be imperative here to see where they go from here. But for Tua himself, saying he wants to come back, and then the analyzation, but will he come back in week 8 against Arizona at home? Or will this be longer? Will it be another stint on IR? Will it be a season ending and we figure out, because at the end of the day, the brain injuries are swelling up of the brain, concussions, and they take time to heal, and there's different severity. And then there's this whole, hey, because of how many he had, how does that play a factor? And everybody, all these NFL players, they want to come out and they want to, talk. And the other thing that just really screws the Dolphins up is the fact that it's Tua, he's a lightning rod. If this was the backup lineman on the Bengals who had his 4th concussion, you probably would see it in a blurb on NFL.com and never hear anything about it. But it's Tua, so everybody's got an opinion. And that also makes it where the team needs to they need to do extra and hold them out, in my opinion, probably longer because of the way it looks. So, again, absolute disaster. The Dolphins have had in 2 weeks, 2 games, they've had storylines of 3 seasons already. I mean, it's distraction, it's craziness. So let's put that over here. Tua, as a man, I pray for you. Want you to come back. Respect any decision you make. I think you will come back. But, brother, you got to play smart, get the ball out, get down. You don't have a great line. You don't need, if you're going to run and slide. Be smart. But you cannot go running into somebody's chest. I don't care if it's the ball boy at this point. So we're going to put that on this shelf of disaster number 1. Disaster number 2, the game. I don't know how many more times, and it's not like I didn't make this prediction. I definitely thought it would be closer than it was. I don't know how many more times we need to watch the Dolphins in big spots, in primetime games, at home, shit the bed. I don't know how many more times in my lifetime I need to see it. You can go through the years and you can see there's a lot of primetime games that they'll win when, it doesn't matter. When they're 3-6 and 2018, the Pats come down and they're on their way to the playoffs and you pick them off because you actually decided that in one game, wow, we could actually show up. But when it comes to put up or shut up time, at home, big spot, it's just completely flat. They come out in that game, and we'll go back to Tua, and it's bigger than him. He had the 3 picks, first pick, first drive. But here's what I got to understand, and I heard this on a show this week. How in the hell on 3rd and 14 on the first drive do we got Waddle and Hill on the sideline, and we're throwing a pass to Grant Dubose, who's been here for 5 minutes, on a timing route, because everything's timing in the offense. He's not ready. Bang, off his shoulder. Bang, interception. Boom, Bills are up 7-0. Please, somebody explain why we're paying these guys to be on the bench. Makes 0 sense. Then we got later in the game, there's just no flow of offense. Again, you got Robbie Chosen, who got cut because he's absolutely just clueless, running wrong routes. Bang, interception number 2. Do you think you can give good teams like Buffalo turnovers? They'd probably beat you without them. They didn't even need to win the game. You lost the game. They just kind of showed up and facilitated a few things. Josh Allen didn't even have to take a shower. It's just so unbelievable how in the moment, in the big moment, nobody steps up. One guy played well in that game, and it was Devon Achane, who had 29 touches and a touchdown, however many yards he had. Only guy who showed up. And guess what? I don't need Devon Achane touching the ball 29 times because he's smaller back and it's too much. But outside of that, the offensive line, which, big shocker, played absolutely piss poor against a Bills defense that was missing top-notch guys in the secondary. Their linebackers out. One of their top defensive linemen went out. They're playing like a skeleton defense, and literally you're handing them the game. And I'm going to tell you why you hand them the game, because Mike McDaniel, who we're going to get to you, Big Mike. We're going to get there. Mike McDaniel basically plays into the other people's hands. And I get it. We don't sit here and complain, and I don't, when they're throwing 80-yard bombs all last year. I get it. But sustained complementary football, look it up, Mike, because you don't play it at all. And it's getting to a point where 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, same shit. And it's getting old. It's getting really old. And right now, in this moment, in this game and this stretch, where you got at Seattle, at New England, at home against Tennessee, Monday Night Football. Gee, thanks for that. At New England, bye week, at Colts. Right now, we need to see if Mike McDaniel is actually a good coach. He's a good play caller. He's a good play designer. He has trickery. He wears cool sneakers. Is he a head coach where he can take the shit that's hitting the fan and actually do something with it? Because in that game, in that moment, your in-game play calling and the way you manage the game is beyond piss poor. Just flat out, there's no other way to say it. There's zero complimentary football. It's first drive, we run a couple plays, boom, we take a shot to Tyreek, boom, he's out on 3rd and 14, boom, we throw to Grant Dubose, of all people, and bang, turnover. And then later in the game, no established running game. Like, could you run some sustained drives and actually get a first down or two and punt and play field position and actually put your defense in a good spot? Ever? They're the Yankees. They hit a lot of home runs, but they strike out a lot. But getting on base and stealing bases is like foreign. That's literally the way they play offensive football. And it's getting old. It's getting really old. And the offensive line banged up. Armstead got hurt his shoulder, said he's going to play. He's a difference maker when he's in there, but the reality is guard play, Eichenberg, the center, it's just not good enough. It is not good enough. And if you're an opposing defense, it's so friggin' obvious how to defend this team. And it's going to be really obvious when you got Skylar Thompson at starting quarterback in Seattle and for the next 4 games. So just an outright disgrace, one of the worst games that I've been to where you go in, and luckily I didn't have a crazy high expectation. Like, it's not like I was like, hey, we're going to win this game and actually dethrone Buffalo for the first time. No, I didn't think that because I see too much and I saw the writing on the wall. And reality is this team should be 0-2. You made a great play in week 1, Javon Holland. Hallelujah. But you've played basically garbage football for about 7 quarters in 2 games. Not good enough at all. And let's go back to Big Mike McDaniel. Big Mike. I don't understand how you constantly make the same mistakes in the way you run a game. I don't understand. It's year 3, bro. You've gotten a pass because of all the great things you've done in resurrecting to a high-powered offense, scoring a lot of points, playing this video game football. I'm tired of video game football, bro. I'm tired. I don't need to be, we score 40 or we score 7. And I think in the last 8 games, they've averaged about 15 points a game. And lo and behold, most of those games were big, important games. December playoffs, obviously Thursday night. You are not rising up to the moment at all. And it's going to get you. You got your contract. You're here. We want you here. But if you don't start learning some lessons, I'm going to be done with you. I'm not going there yet. It's week 3. And you've made the playoffs 2 years in a row. And you've done some things, and I'm a believer in continuity, and we gotta ride waves. But I need to see something different, because for me right now, you play the video game of where we're gonna go for it every 4th down, and these other coaches, McDermott, he comes in and he basically made you his bitch, like flat out. That's what he's done. Guy shuts his mouth. Guy gets his team ready. They play fundamental football. They don't make mistakes. They get production out of guys on the back end of the roster when they have injuries and things don't fall off a cliff. And we're sitting here, hey, we're so talented. Oh, yeah, you're talented, all right. Problem is, the talent is only going to get you so far. And let's flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. Now, offense doesn't do you any favors. But D-line. If you don't have Calais Campbell and Zach Sealer in the game, you're going to get ran the F over. Linebacker play has done a good job compensating. Safeties, okay. Clearly, you haven't been destroyed from a big passing game, but again, they didn't try to. They didn't need to. But you know what they did do? They ran it on you, and they ran it at opportune times. You got no turnovers, and it's just not good enough. And now you sit here and you say, okay, we lost this game. We're not in the Bills league. Let's not pretend we are. We're going to see them in week 10 or whatever it is in Buffalo. But right now, as we turn the page to Seattle, we need some big boy performances from every fool that in the last 6 months, all we heard was, I got to get paid. I got to get paid. I need a new contract. I need restructure. You better bring your lunch pail tomorrow, because Skylar Thompson cannot be the guy who's going to sit here and put it all on his back. It ain't going to happen. Not going to happen. Now, let's beat up the front office a little bit, because, again, this is a disaster. Front office. Did we not scream about the fact that in training camp you had Skylar Thompson and Mike White battling for number 2? And both of them basically look like third-string quarterbacks? Were there not articles written about getting Ryan Tannehill? Not to say he's the answer, but if it's Ryan Tannehill, if it's a guy like Ryan Tannehill, Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, a proven veteran. No, you didn't. I don't know if it was money-driven. I don't know if it was we don't want to upset Tua-driven. If I had to guess, I'd go with the latter. And that could be your downfall, because Skylar Thompson's been here 3 years. Good kid, plays hard, but he's limited. And to me, he's not a backup quarterback. He's the third-string quarterback. Now, the benefit and the reason he's here and the reason he's in the position is because he knows the offense and he's been in it for 3 years. But the reality is he cannot make all the throws that Tua can make. Now, I get it. Not every backup is going to come in and, be Patrick Mahomes. But in this situation, knowing Tua's history, that's an indictment on you. If they go 1-5, which I will put money on the table right here, that when we go into the Cardinal game, and strike me with lightning to be wrong, they'll be 1-5. There is no way in heaven or hell Skylar Thompson is winning a game. No way. And I don't even care the fact that you're playing, good to subpar teams. Hell, you're playing the Pats, who are going to be starting a rookie probably next week. I don't see it. Now, could I be wrong because they do have talent and they could do some good things? Do I think tomorrow they're going to come out and get completely destroyed? I don't. I think guys are going to take pride. They're going to do things. I'm going to give McDaniel the benefit of creativity and, the extra days he's had, the extra days of rest, Skylar taking first team reps. I'm going to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt that they're going to play better. But are they going to win in Seattle? I guess you'll have to wait for my pick. But are they going to win in Seattle? I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it. Sorry. I don't see it. This guy is a third-string QB. And you think he's going to come in here and win on the road in Seattle? No, Seattle's no world beater, but they're 2-0. They're well coached, 2-0. They have a very good secondary. They have a couple of really good receivers. They have a resurrected Geno Smith. And again, I'm going to give them all the credit in the world, and with Pete Carroll, the whole thing. They resurrected a guy's career. And that's a whole nother thing on, how quickly we give up on quarterbacks in the league and we don't develop them. We expect things to happen in 5 seconds and it don't work like that. And people lose patience. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But are they going to go into Seattle in this adversity and show up? I don't know. I'm leaning towards no. Now, here would be, if it's me, the keys to victory of how they could. They go out this week and then they get a backup, which is Tyler Huntley, who was on the Ravens practice squad, played a few games with them, technically made a Pro Bowl, which is kind of a joke because nobody went to it. He's a runner, talented kid, seems like. I don't know a hell of a lot about him, but he's made some plays, played in a playoff game, backed up Lamar. But he's not the guy you're getting to run this offense. He's just not. What I think will happen is I think there will probably be some packages for him, some trickery, some wildcat type stuff to get him in the mix. And then, yes, obviously if Skylar goes down, he's going to be the guy. And the problem with that is you literally have to run a completely dumbed down offense. And what really hurts you in this case is it's not like this team is running the ball. And they're not going to be able to run the ball. And quite frankly, if you really think about it, last year with the success they had running the ball, it sure as hell wasn't because of the offensive line. They run outside zone. It was because of the threat of the pass game. So if I'm Seattle, I'm bringing linebackers up. I'm giving you one-on-one with Hill and Waddle all day long. I'll let you beat me. And maybe he'll beat him once or twice. But other than that, they're going to completely destroy the run game. They're going to completely destroy anything underneath. God knows we can't get a tight end involved. We sign all these tight ends. We've literally done nothing but a few shovel passes to them. So if I'm Seattle, I'm bringing that heat and I'm bringing that fire, and I am blitzing the hell out of him. I'm going over 5 sacks tomorrow. If I was a betting man, over 5. Because they're going to bring the heat. They're going to get him rattled. That place is loud as hell. And yeah, will he probably hit a couple of big ones here and there? Will he get quick slant to Hill or Waddle, given, let's say there's some single coverage there because they want to bring the heat? Sure. But whatever. If you're them, cool. Beat me once, beat me twice. We're going to beat you overall. That's because then I feel like the rest of the drives, it's going to turn into these, hey, we gave them a lot of chunk yards, but we held them to 3. And that's how they'll win. And they're not a high-powered offense either. They're going to score in the 20s, and away we go. But you want to talk about bringing your big boy coaching pants to Seattle and bringing some strategy, and then bringing these guys on this team, they need to step up. Defensively, somebody on the defensive line needs to understand that they can actually hit a fool in the mouth that runs at them. because other than the linebackers, that D-line, it is piss poor at best, and it's decent with Campbell, like I said before, and Sealer, but they can't play every play. They just can't. So when they're out, it's a completely different ballgame. So somebody in that depth rotation, like, step up. Cornerback-wise, you know, you're going to have Ramsey and Metcalf. It's definitely going to be the fight of the day, as they say, the battle of the day. You know how it goes. You know, wideouts typically are going to win enough battles, right? I'm sure Ramsey will win his fair share. The corners have not killed you, but again, you have not had to deal with some big-time pass game. I don't think you're going to deal with it tomorrow with Gino, but he's definitely going to he's going to play the game he plays, and he's going to probably play a smart game and not hand you the game. Now, if they hand them some turnovers, the question with us is going to be, is Skyler up to the challenge of capitalizing? Now, if you go back to the games he played 2 years ago, the Jet game was one of the worst games in history, where they won 12-6 to get in the playoffs. Literally did nothing the entire game. Looked like a third-string quarterback. He played fairly well in the playoff game, and in fairness to him, he had some big drops and big moments by Waddle and a couple others. And then the play calling at the end, because again, let's go back to Mike McDaniel not being able to get plays in, which is laughable. And that really hurt him. And they lost the playoff game. I think it was about 18-44. So not great. He got helped by a defensive score. He got helped by a punt return. Can they get that tomorrow? Can they generate some turnovers? Can they get a big play in special teams? Can they actually do some little things well? Other than, hey, we threw it up to Tyreek for 80 yards. Because you ain't playing that game without Tua. Thompson's arm is okay, but he ain't Tua. And he's a little bit gunslingerish, which makes you think, hey, he's probably going to throw 2 picks. If he throws 2 picks, it's game over. If he's clean on turnovers or 1, you might be in the game in the fourth quarter. But I just have to also go back here. Like, why can't Dolphin fans have nice things? Like, why? It's amazing. It's week 3. And we just deal with crap after crap after crap. Now, let me try to be optimistic and positive. I'll try, I promise. It is week 3. And there's opportunity in front of you this season. It's not over because you're 1-1. But a smart Dolphin fan is going to see the writing on the wall. But can they do some things to actually be that team that they talk about being, that will make the plays that need to be made by the players that need to make them, the ones that are making the big dollars, and can they get through adversity? I mean, any great player, business person, they're dealing with adversity, and they have to fight through it. And this is as adverse as you're going to get. And it starts one game at a time. Again, I guess your positive here is that it's a stretch that, NFL, every game's hard, I don't care, but a stretch where you're not playing, the 4 playoff teams from a year ago. But it's going to be insanely interesting to see how they manage this game and what's the strategy. What's the strategy offensively? Because if you watch a game with Tua, you kind of know the drill. We've kind of watched the same game now for 2.5 years of what they do or attempt to do. You can't do the same. So this is where McDaniel is going to earn his money. What can be done in this game, in this moment, in this adversity to keep this team together and to try and eke out a win on the road? And here's the other thing when it comes to backup quarterbacks. Other teams have backup quarterbacks that come in and win games. It's not like it's a foreign thing. Hell, the Dolphins for years had some of the best backups ever. Matt Moore, they won games. They had Matt Moore for years. They've had Brock Osweiler won games. They've made efforts to have pretty decent backups. Because at the time with Tannehill and his injuries and some others, it was the thing they needed to do. And they did it, and they had, Matt Moore took you to the playoffs and won games in the year Tannehill hurt his knee. But now you're sitting here with a guy that you basically have been developing, but pretty much was very close to being cut in camp. And everybody forgets, and I think I talked about this on the first podcast, in camp, he got put in the position to succeed, and Mike White did not. Skyler got to play with the top guys. Now, that might have been calculated by the front office, because what they could have been saying was, if we're paying Mike White $3.5 million and we're paying Skyler Thompson next to nothing, we could save that money, and we feel the production is somewhat even. Not the worst move in the world. It's fine. If you were going to get rid of him, fine. But my question then is, there should have been an alternative, and there wasn't. Tim Boyle on the practice squad, who is basically a horrendous QB, is not the answer, because clearly then you went out and got Huntley, and he's not really the answer either. He's a good guy to have on your roster. He's a good guy who can be back and forth on the practice squad. But, if it comes down to that, you're in trouble. So, again, God, it's tough to be a Dolphin fan. It is brutal. But I'm going to try and refocus, and we're going to get ready. Going to double check here the spread for tomorrow, see the update. Okay, so Steve Gio's Week 3 Miami Dolphin pick in the league where they play for pay. Dolphins at Seattle, 4:05 kickoff, West Coast, loud stadium, tough environment, big adversity. The Seahawks are favored by 4.5. Over-under is 41.5. My thoughts and prediction. I think the Seahawks are going to win this game. I think it's going to be a 27-10 type of a game. The Dolphins are never going to really be close. They're going to do a couple things to make you think they will be. Skyler will ultimately make mistakes. You can take that under of the 41. I think Seattle is a team that people sleep on. I think they have very good fundamental players. I think Geno Smith, got to give him a hell of a lot of credit for what he's done for his career. But I don't think there's any way the Dolphins have a shot in this game. I love when I'm wrong. Please make me wrong. But I think you're going to walk away from this game and you're going to probably have more questions than answers. And you're going to get yourself then to the Monday night game next week against Tennessee at 1-2 in a desperate situation. And I think this will be a feeling out process type of a game where the Dolphins just don't know what they can do and what they can't do with Skyler. And it just won't be enough in a tough spot, in a tough environment on the road. So that's my prediction. And wow, for a Dolphin podcast, I've picked the Dolphins to lose 3 weeks in a row. Let's hope that we can get out there with a victory, come back, get me positive again, get me fired up. But I can say this, no matter what, we're going to be here next week as we prepare for a Monday Night Football game. Let's go, Fins. Mike McDaniel, bring the noise and bring your big boy coaching pants, because you're going to need it. We'll see you next week.